Hi, I want to talk a bit about celebrities, and I'm particularly thinking of actors, singers, sports people. Actually, I was originally going to angle this video specifically about casting in the world of film and screen casting, but there's a little bit of overlap, but maybe that's for another video. I'll stick with this one for now. Hell, I might make both videos. Um, yeah, actors, singers, sports people. I think that within these areas they're all demanding professions. Okay, not usually life and death demanding. Depending on the sport, some of them might be more risky. Certainly, boxing, rugby, physical sports do carry real risks. Um, Acting, singing, less so. I mean, unless actors are doing their own stunts, the physical side is less. However, a schedule can be demanding. And for singers, you can have a grueling tour schedule, which I think takes a lot of physical endurance. The late Tina Turner apparently used to have to take ice baths after her performances because she put such energy into those performances. Um, Now, I want to be clear here. I am no hypocrite. I enjoy music. I enjoy film. I like watching the Olympics. I like certain sports. These people are fundamentally entertainers. In the world of sports, it's a bit more about more of that domain is perhaps about personal achievement, and that's not necessarily preemptive for the. I mean, it's not necessarily a key aspect of the public perception there because a lot of sports people would sort of be like, well, I mean, take for example a boxer who's won a fight, but it's an unpopular decision. That boxer would need tough skin psychologically to say, well, I don't care what the crowd thinks. I know I won. With acting, singing, it's a bit more audience targeted, a little bit. Um, but still, an actor or a singer will be trying to achieve their own goals and their own expectations of themselves. And this varies greatly depending on what level they're at. I mean, obviously, you cannot compare a stage actor in a medium-sized theatre production to a Hollywood A-lister. There's no comparison. Um, and you could look at this across the board. You're not going to compare someone who sings at the local pub to a Grammy Award winning artist. So of course, it's huge. Oh, my screen is going again. There's huge. I'm going to try and ignore this because I don't think my viewers can see this. I can, but I'll just try and ignore it. Very strange. Um, so there's huge, variations there, but there's two aspects to this. Firstly, you get the fan base. That is people who have this really, really strong loyalty to their particular celebrity, the singer or the actor. Um, Sometimes in the sports world, I would say not quite as much. You get fandom in boxing matches, particularly if it's becomes tribalized. That was very much the case with the Mayweather Pacquiao super fight of 2015. But in the world of acting, or perhaps most accurately, is the world of performing artists like singing, where the fandom is really, really strong, to the point where it's almost a cult status. Beyonce performed in Sunderland recently, and there were people traveling from all over the world to see that because the ticket prices here were cheaper in some cases than their local venues. So they were prepared to travel thousands of miles. There were Australians, there were New Yorkers, people have come a long way to see that. I have no strong views on Beyonce either way. I mean, in terms of her music, I have no strong views. She obviously has a good voice, but I haven't followed her career closely. Um, but people are really when you start following a celebrity like that to the point where it's I don't know obsessive. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not at all saying that there's anything wrong with people being a fan. And if you work hard, save your money, you go to a concert. I hope you enjoy the concert. I'm not taking that away from people. But what I do notice is that with that fan base aspect, let's say, for instance, you get a journalist, and perhaps I'm biased because I've trained as a journalist, but they do an interview where some of the questions are a bit tough. Then you get people sort of jumping on this journalist because they dare to ask questions. I mean, you don't see that personality cult around dictators, around monarchs, except maybe in Thailand. But it's a very intense thing. But if you have a celebrity who has maybe practiced hypocrisy, maybe they have insulted another artist, maybe they have, it could be anything, right? It could be anything. Um, I won't include offers because generally there aren't celebrity offers in the same way, with a tiny number of exceptions. J.K. Rowling, Stephen King, um, Mr. Martin, I can't even remember his first initials of the Game of Thrones fame, but most authors tend to be, even bestsellers, they're not celebrities in the same way. They don't come under quite that level of scrutiny. Um, but yeah, singers and actors particularly, it's like, I get it. If you like a singer or an actor, you won't like them being criticized. But what's to say that the journalist isn't just doing their job? People need to get away from this thing of this person is above all scrutiny. I think sometimes it can be unhealthy, very unhealthy. And I think celebrities themselves can somehow get into this bubble. Now, they work hard. If you're an actor, there's long rehearsals, there's long hours. Some productions are hell in terms of what's required. I know my favorite actor, Leonardo DiCaprio, some of the production sets he's went through have been really, really strenuous. After Romeo and Juliet 1996, which was filmed in Mexico, he went back to Mexico for the filming of Titanic, and he wasn't sure he wanted to do it, but his agent kind of encouraged him, and it showed his dedication as an actor. Even though the shooting of Romeo and Juliet had been very chaotic, he was prepared to go back as a professional and do that even in his early 20s. So that's what, it's a demanding profession. And then there's the fame side, the paparazzi and all of that. And so, on one hand, it's a luxurious life. They get a lot of money, and there's that glamorous side of it. But I think it's also could be a very, very demanding life, that sort of thing. So it's not necessarily something I envy. Um, Singers, again, we talk about grueling schedules and paparazzi harassment. It's a similar thing. I was talking to my friend recently about this, and I said, "Who do you think gets more pressure, A-list actors or top singers?" He thought about it for a while. He said singers, which was an interesting thing because with actors they portray different roles. With a singer, it's perhaps more personal because especially if they're a singer-songwriter, that's their work. It's coming from the heart. Whereas an actor, a good actor, can get into the role and do the research and so on. But it is different. Um, but I think going back to acting, I think a lot of people are a little bit tired of actors pontificating and being political in the sense that I think a lot of people out there saying your job is to act, your job is to entertain us. And I think that too much of the industry has become politicized, or there's been this sense of actors feeling they have to jump on a bandwagon. And if they don't do so, then they're unmentionable, they're terrible. So take the Me Too thing, for instance, every male actor in Hollywood basically had to prove that he was on board. Um, as did every actress. And the diversity issue when it came to Oscars So White 2016. Anyone thinking outside the box was immediately pounced on. Charlotte Rampling was quoted as saying it was racist against whites, and she did say that was taken out of context, and she apologised, but she was immediately pounced on for criticising the concept. So, ironically, in the past, in the 40s and 50s, it was a McCarthyite sort of thing, the notorious Hollywood blacklist, when suspected communists and left wingers were kind of singled out. But now it's kind of went the other way, where conservatives and non woke people are singled out. And then you get a case like Johnny Depp. Now, I think in the case of Johnny Depp, I'm talking, of course, of the Depp Heard trial. I think it's because Depp was so famous and such a big A-lister. I mean, he was one of the biggest names in Hollywood, still is, arguably. You know, that in a way saved him, although I believe the trial also showed he was the innocent party overall. Whereas he told crude jokes, Amber Heard was a proven abuser. It was proven in the court of law. Um, but if Johnny Depp had been a less famous actor, like if he'd been a middle level actor, would he have come out of that with such support? I'm not sure. I would like to think that there would be consistency. I do think Depp's popularity certainly helped a bit of a backlash. But he did lose work as a result, and there was consequences for her lies, and the way she went about that. Um, because even now there are feminists who, despite this being proven in the court of law who the abuser was, they will still say it's bad for women. That Depp won the case. Let's ignore, the facts. Let's just go with making it a gender battle. Um, but I just think that more broadly speaking, in the world of acting, when actors get up and take their awards, people want them to, thank the producer, thank the family, take the award, and that's it. I think sometimes there could be exceptions. If the speech is directly about the subject matter of the film, maybe that's got relevance, because maybe it did inspire them. So DiCaprio spoke about climate change in relation to The Revenant. That film was largely about the natural world and versus man, so it was relevant. But Joaquin Phoenix got up. I forget. I think it was the Joker he was nominated for, and he got up and spoke about veganism. I mean, I get that it's something he's passionate about, but is it the right time? Um, there's other examples, many other examples. I think people just get tired of actors preaching. Um, because it's kind of this mentality of, well, what makes your opinion more valid than ours? Or uh, for actors, they would probably say, well, I'm going to use this platform that I've got. And that's all very well. And they have First Amendment rights. They've got freedom of speech like everyone else. But I do think they need to be aware that people do see it as a bit preachy and a bit you know, like actors thinking they're more important than they are. It's fundamentally they are entertainers. They're not legislators. They're not um they're not business people who can invest money into things. Like, they're fundamentally entertainers. I suppose you could say if they're wealthy enough they can invest money in projects, but it just becomes a bit vacuous. I mean, the whole plot of Team America was about very pretentious actors. Obviously, that was ridiculous. That was very exaggerated, and it got a lot of rebuke from some of the subjects featured. I know Sean Penn was livid about it, which, to be honest, I think I think you should have seen it was puppets. It wasn't really saying that this is to be taken seriously. Um, But when actors sit down to interviews, I don't think there is anything wrong with saying I believe passionately in this cause or that cause. That's their right. But I just think they need to be aware that a lot of people feel that Hollywood itself is becoming way, way too political. Now, it always has been political on some level, always. But I do feel that there's a sense that films are becoming, is it really about entertainment anymore? I mean, I was looking at the reviews for Wonder Woman the other day, the recent series of Wonder Woman films. I'm not super into, you know, superhero films, but this is Wonder Woman, the one that was set in World War One, and honestly, the critical reception, it was like micro analysis of what sort of feminist role was she portraying and what was she doing with this, and was showing her in a sexy light. Was that really giving the feminist cause what its money's worth? And, it's like, my goodness, just enjoy the film. Like, I think people forget that fundamentally, actors are in the business of entertaining. So are singers. Um, with singers, there may be a little bit more scope because if their songs are personal, if it's like they're the songwriter, I guess that's more personal. But I just think actors need to remember that fundamentally they are entertainers. Yes, they can be in a position of power insofar as they have influence insofar as they've got money. But fundamentally, it's about entertainment, and I think they need to remember that. Um, I don't. I'm not saying they can't have an opinion. I'm not saying they can't campaign on issues, but I think it can be problematic when it the whole industry gets overshadowed by this, and it's like, sometimes it's brought home and actors can't avoid something. An example of this is Matthew McConaughey after the Uvalde shooting in Texas that year. That, I believe, was his hometown. Of course, he's going to have an opinion on it. He's a famous person. He's from there. If this awful event has happened in his hometown, it would be pretty strange if he didn't have an opinion on it. And as a public figure, people are going to expect to hear something from him. That doesn't mean he, as an actor, couldn't necessarily do anything, but people would expect that. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. I just think that the film industry generally, it's true of television, but the film industry generally, it's just overshadowed by this stuff. It's like, can you just enjoy the film and not micro-analyze the identity politics of it? You know, um, some films are about historic subject matter, right? Um, I get that, and I get that there's going to be analysis in that area. But when people are micro-analyzing a superhero film, for goodness sake, a superhero film, I mean, if you've seen Wonder Woman, it's not exactly accurate in terms of the First World War, in terms of you know, because it's largely a superhero film. It's not about, I mean, had General Ludendorff as this sinister demonic entity, or assumed to be, and then throwing a gas canister into a room of other officers is just clearly nonsense. But it's an action scene. It is what it is. Fundamentally, film is about entertaining the audience, and it's just. And if it is making a message, fine. But let's just have some consistency. And also, I just think that people need to remember that just because a journalist is criticizing an actor or a singer or a sports person, it doesn't mean that they're human beings. They're not above scrutiny. And, you know, I have a lot of sympathy with what they put up with the paparazzi, but that's another matter. When it comes to legitimate criticism, they need to stop being so precious and thinking that they're above scrutiny, because a lot of celebrities get into this thing of, if people criticizing them online, oh, I'm being targeted by trolls. Well, maybe someone just doesn't like your opinion as a public figure, and they're allowed to not like your opinion as long as they're not threatening you, as long as they're not, being overly vitriolic. Celebrities, frankly, need to get over themselves and stop thinking that they are above reproach just because they're rich and famous. Thanks for watching.